Yemi and we go way back. But this is the catch. When you meet Yemi, you think Yemi is the tech guy because I think almost everybody around him is tech. But very few of us get to know that Yemi is a comms guy. He works in the comms department. So we got to share his own story of how he's been able to be an amazing communicator and work with different brands and still remain relevant. And what he's a good example of the word referral and what referral did for him. So your ability to understand what the world of work is and what your skill set can do for you is one you should not take for granted. So Yemi's episode is one you should listen to. Hi, guest. Welcome, Mr. Yemi.
Hi, Charles. How you doing? Hope you're doing good.
I'm good, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I don't take it for granted. Thanks, Charles.
So let's get to meet Yemi aside every other thing they've known about him. There's a Yemi, there's a version, there's a Yemi they know, Yemi Tech. But I've known Yemi as Yemi the comms guy. Yeah. So let's see your own journey from communications as a communications expert up till now.
Interesting. Maybe I just found myself in tech. Someone just felt that Yemi would be good in tech, right? Or in communications as it were. But let's take us back on this journey, and it's a very interesting journey. And I always say it when I have the opportunity to share with people around how that journey started. So, every young guy after service year, and for those who don't know, I didn't do anything related to mass comm. I did statistics. Summation fx owner n is equals to x bar.
So you were that guy?
So, yeah, when they tell you, I always tell people in statistics, if you don't know it, you don't know it, right?
You can't even cram it.
You can't cram. I remember way back then there was this particular exams that we did then, and the question is prove the Lehman-Pearson theory or something like that, and it looks like okay, prove. And when you start that, literally you would have to prove for 2 pages.
Wow.
So that's where I was coming from. So I wasn't that great mass comm guy who graduated and that's so after service year, I always tell people, though very personal to me, but I always try as much as possible to tell people about it. So after service year, the regular guy would always want to look for a job and all that. But for me, it was a very trying time for me because, my dad was not 100% health-wise. So the first year after service year, I was literally with him. He passed on, at that time. Yeah, but I think what the learning after that was, better things that I literally didn't imagine. 3 days after his passing, I got my first job opportunity. And how did it happen? Someone took a bet on me, sent my CV to the marketing manager of that company. And today, I respect him as one of the person who took a bet on me and, where I find myself today. So my first place of work was Toyota. And, it's very interesting when the brief in terms of looking for a talent, when the brief was specific, I need somebody who understands numbers.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember that day I was in the hospital. My elder brother came and said, "Hey, Yemi, this person said he needed somebody with this particular skill set." And I said, "Okay." From the hospital, sent my CV, and went through that process. So I joined Toyota then as a research and statistics executive. And what that meant for anybody who that cares to know was simply being that guy who oversaw the demand order process within Toyota. Always looking at the weekly sales forecast and that whole shenanigans in there. So I was literally the guy coming up with the line graphs, with the fancy looking dashboards and all that. So that's where I started, right? Did interesting 4 years there. I say that was my, the best time ever because that gave me the opportunity to work in an established organization. And the moral of this was somebody took a bet on me.
Yeah.
And taking a bet on me here was, somebody fresh from school. He had the knowledge about what was required and just said, okay, no experience, the greenhorn, yeah, let's take that bet, right? And 4 years, within 4 years, Yemi became like the guy, like superstar kind of level guy, right? I'm like, So I did 4 straight years in TNL. And I had
Toyota Nigeria.
That's Toyota Nigeria. Then I moved to another automobile company, Subaru. It's also a Japanese brand. Our selling point was AWD, the all-wheel drive. And then we had to still convince a lot of people, what is the difference between all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive? And for us, that was the selling point. Yes, the brand had its stay, and of course, in the years that I, worked there, which was not, I think it wasn't, I didn't spend much time with the team, but I think for me, how I got into the team was interesting because the former MD at TNL just reached out that day and said, hey, you know what? I'm a journey of, setting up something new, and I want you to be part of that journey. Right, and I'm asking myself, you don't know me, I'm not, I think that for me, that was the time for me to say, most often than not, we do things, but we do not necessarily see what other people around us see about us, right? Yeah. I was just doing my, easygoing guy, do my job, get my analysis out, send the report, and of course, wait at the end of the month, call my salary, man. That kind of thing. But beyond that, I think somebody wanted to make me excel more. When Subaru came into the market, and I give call out Mr. Kofi Sego at this point in time. He reached out and said, "Hey, Yemi, I'm doing something new. Come join the team and all that, right?" And I found myself a Subaru. Almost the same function. I was more like the resource marketing executive, And at that point in my life, I never knew anything like communications. I was more like the numbers guy.
Still the numbers guy.
Still the numbers guy. So, did a bid at Subaru. And interestingly again, a team member who I met at Subaru had just moved to another organization, right? And when that person moved, just reached out and say, hey, there is opportunity in my new place. And she said, I think you'll be good at it. And I said, what? And she said, as a PR and media person. I'm like, wait, like, I don't understand this. Without the PR media, I say, I don't get it. I just know numbers, right? And I think I need to, really appreciate people like that who can really
look through you,
understand what your strengths are, and walk you on that journey to bring out the best out of you. Right? So Funke and Tekim was that person. Funke Michaels was that person who said, you know what, Yemi, join the team to be the PR person, right? For the first time in my life, I was getting into a role that until that day, I didn't know what that function was.
Amazing.
I did not know what that function was, right? So I started reading. Oh my God, what is this? What is PR? I don't get it. So I started reading, and yeah, I think I had a wing of what the role is all about. As I transitioned in that role, which obviously was in Samsung, and then Samsung, had, during that 2 years where I stayed in Samsung, I think then, and I think it was between 2010 and 2012, Samsung was literally like in everybody's face. And, when I take a step back and look at and evaluate the kind of work that we did then, if nobody is saluting you, I'm saluting myself, because that was intensive, and those 2 years were a lot of campaigns, a lot of innovation came into the market. So that was the first time in PR and media. I will not have succeeded on that role, and that's why I say when you get learning could be gotten from anywhere. And at this point in time, I want to do a call out, a shout out to Mr. Talkability himself, Segun Macmeda, who then was the account manager on the PR, like our PR agency, CMC Connect. I literally went to him and I say, "Guy, I do not know this thing. Help out," right? And Segun was so very very helpful. He helped me understand what the role was. And I'm so grateful to him, because if I did not work with him for those 2 years, I don't think I would have come out purified as, the knowledge and what I have now. So Sheldon was very instrumental in me, having my legs solid in the comms role. So 2 years I did in Samsung, and just like I said, everything was still referral. If you get what I mean, everything was still like referral. No,
I'm going to look for a job.
Interestingly, when I even go to look for, I don't get it.
So you figured out what worked for you.
I knew what worked for me. So I did 2 years at Samsung, and I got a call from a senior colleague of way back then. He had just joined Lafarge, right? And he said, "Hey, Yemi, you know what? There are opportunities in Lafarge is something that you're ready to make that career switch to now." When he told me, I was super excited, because at that point in time, I think 2 years at Samsung, I was that whole enthusiasm was already going down. So I just said I needed something new. And because again, I already knew how my tangential career-wise had always been, I was always getting referrals. So when Real One Yusuf reached out, I said, "Hey, okay, fine." But the interesting thing was, he knew me as a strong person from an analytical standpoint.
Okay.
Right. So he was taking me back.
Yeah.
Right, to my, where I started, but I was already... You
had evolved.
Yeah, so I evolved, but, you find yourself in a situation that, I'm going to speak a little bit of Yoruba. They said, ability is different from ability, right? That is something that... It's inside. I don't want to say like a Messi, right? And then ability, like a Ronaldo, right? But you get it. Hey, Messi, Ronaldo fans. That wasn't the idea. But
don't worry, we'll forgive you. We're in the workplace.
But that's literally what it is. So went back to Lafarge. I think I was the market analyst. I was the first market analyst in Lafarge, because then the cement industry was evolving as well. That was the first time marketing was coming into the cement industry. Before then, we had a situation whereby, how do I call it? Demand was higher than supply. So we had a situation where people would have demanded for the product for 2 years, and they had not gotten the supply. So bottom line, those organizations, the cement companies, then were balling. So there was no need for marketing. Yeah. So it got to a level where it flipped, where we had more cement factories in the country, and we had it flipped to a stage whereby you had more supply than demand. So that was when marketing came. So there had to be differentiation. Why do I need to buy brand A over brand B and brand C? And what are the different tactics, strategies that we needed to do? So I got into Sapphire and all that. Did a bit, no, maybe less than a year there. And I was just in the office one day and I just got a random message on LinkedIn, right? And it was simply simple. Hey, I just checked your profile, looks interesting, and you fit into the plan of this particular organization, and we feel that if it's something you're interested in, happy to share with you the JD. Right.
You see, very few people. I let you talk, so it's good. People see that trajectory. Very few people have this charm you have.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting, but that was it for me. Just, you know, I got that message, and you know, and this is about 9 years ago. So when people today talk about is it possible you get your jobs on LinkedIn or not? I experienced it 9, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right, and it can only get better, you know. So that process started, and at the end of the day, I ended up becoming the PR manager at Microsoft. Been in Microsoft for about 9 years now, right? And in that 9 years, I have moved from PR manager to comms lead. I've also gone ahead to become regional communications coordinator for our philanthropies business. Did some development work also. Been the philanthropist lead in Nigeria, and by extension overseeing Kenya. And I think this year, 2022, I had another opportunity to move teams within Microsoft to oversee marketing and communications for the Microsoft African Development Center. So, in a nutshell, that has been my journey. And the truth is, even within the 9 years in Microsoft, when I changed roles to work for other teams, it had always come as a referral. Yeah. Right. So, and I think when I sum it up, just give your best, because your advocate will always show up for you, right? And that's what I'll just tell anybody at this given point in time. So that has been my journey.
So Yemi, the world of work, key thing I'm taking away from your own trajectory is that you've had people that stood for you without you. But I must say you're good with numbers. You're good with graphs. so I'm also learning that your background in numbers helped well, because when you see, I've always been an advocate for a hybrid individual. This is what I mean. Someone that has an economics background but has another degree, as in they are always magic. Someone that has a degree in arts and a degree in business. They're amazing species of humans. So you're in comms and you have the idea of numbers. Very few comms people love numbers.
Yeah, so when you do statistics, then they say you don't need English and you can be in the class. Right?
Yeah.
And I think also when you do English, you don't necessarily need mathematics. So yes. I think I'm privileged to
be in two worlds.
To be in those two boats at through my career trajectory. So yeah.
So referral was key to you.
Very key, very key, and I think I was just doing what I love doing.
Nothing special.
Nothing special. I was just enjoying myself, and just trying as much as possible to give my best to what I was doing. Nothing exceptional. I'm just like that guy next door. Nothing exceptional, right? For people who care to know, full-time Ajegunle boy, right? So it's not about because he went to a certain school
Yeah.
or anything, but full-time at Jago level, I represent the area because I also go back to that part of the world and tell them, look, this is me, and you can be anything. You don't need to be special. It's just put your mind to what you want to do, and you make things happen for yourself.
Cool. The world of work changed after COVID. And as a comms expert, the first conversation was that brands speaking to different generations at work. What would you see happened after COVID and the relationship between brands and individuals, and brands and the different generations in the workplace from a professional point of view?
So, COVID was very, how do we call it? I think it was a catalyst
Okay.
of what we currently see in the marketing in the communications field now, whereby the norms that we were used to in terms of channels of communications, back then, even though there were conversations, pre-COVID that it's going to be digital will take over. But a lot of people did not see the reason why it will take over. And of course, the different audiences in terms of, that brands were communicating with, okay? And audiences here, as it were, varying from the baby boomers to, Gen Z. The way we consume content differed. Okay, your baby boomers would naturally want to carry their transistor radio, read the newspaper, and that was it, right? To a generation that where they get their news from could be Twitter, it could be TikTok, it could be right. You understand? So the question was, how best would you get to your audience per time? And I think COVID just demystified, how, reaching audiences per time. And I think it's no longer news that, everything has gone digital in terms of how we consume content and how, our audiences, connect to brands. We've seen a lot of less of the traditional things done. Your average newspapers, your average radio and terrestrial TV and all, and we've seen more of things happening on social. I always say, look at your tradition and you put out your new media. What you naturally see, TV, YouTube has taken over. YouTube and Vivo. When you look at your radio, podcast has taken over, right? So you are having more podcasts, a lot of people are creating content in that space. And when you look at your newspaper, you have your blogs, right? And you now have blogs that are unique to particular industries. So way back then, I don't know if you were a fan of the Tuesday Guardian and the Thursday Guardian way back then.
That's where you get it.
That
you're looking for the best jobs in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Wait for it. Tuesday Guardian.
Tuesday Guardian. But even today now, probably if you go to LinkedIn, you see the best things ever. And I don't know, maybe the generation of now, I still experience that the Tuesday Guardian and Thursday. The first money I had to buy a newspaper was the Tuesday Guardian.
Because you knew that was where you were going to see it.
Yes, that is the shift. That has been the dynamics of how things, COVID enabled it, right? Or was that catalyst for us to find ourselves where we are in terms of how content are being consumed by consumers? And of course, during that whole period, everybody was getting into the WFH syndrome, which is work from home.
Man, all those short forms could get you lost if you don't know them.
Yes, but interestingly, I had an opportunity to work in an organization that from day one, 9 years ago, we had that option of working from home. So it wasn't new to us, but work from home showed up and it became a thing. Work from home showed up and virtual online platforms emerged. So that I'm not, promoting brands on that, but there was a whole lot of virtual online platforms that showed up, and that was how people were still able to remain productive and doing the job, even though that period there was so much work overload, because the whole idea was you were at home and a lot of people had to work on easy schedules. You could start your day by 6 a.m. and you end your day by 10 p.m. But yeah,
people worked more.
Yeah, people worked more, and I think it also gave, a period that was a period that people were more productive. And when I use the word more productive, I'm talking about people who really wanted to do the work. We had situations where people felt work from home was another opportunity to take a nap at home. So yeah, that was it for me. And professionally, I think we started doing a lot of content. So we moved from live events to produced events for life.
Okay.
Right. So typical example, if you had a launch of a product, you would go into a venue, live event and all that. But it moved. It tilted from being that to produced launch. Then it is beamed, or it showed up at a particular time. So those were the new dynamics we had to deal with. I don't know now post-COVID if those are still in there.
Sometimes we say we're not even post-COVID. We're still in the what era did they call this era? Did they call it is okay? Maybe it's post.
I think we can start defining it as post-COVID, because I even think in the federal government recently made an announcement that. I think we've gone past that no masks and all that,
Yeah, but maybe somewhere in China it's still the pandemic.
Yeah, that's that overview. We saw the growth of more online platforms from a professional standpoint. People were doing. I remember during that period, I did a lot of virtual press conferences, and people were asking how. There was. I remember somebody literally asked me, how do you go about doing a virtual press conference? Because I think I had done like maybe 10, 15 in the first few weeks of COVID. And it was more like, give me guidance on how to do a virtual press conference. So it was interesting during that period, but I think even though and the interesting thing about that was you could get journalists far and wide, because the challenge there was how to bring them into your space. But all you just needed to do was share a meeting invite with them, and they just log in and they're part of the conversation and all. So it made rich your content, and of course coverage and expansion of the content when you share it. People who could receive it per time. So COVID had its good, it had its own downsides, but I think in all we find ourselves where we are. The ones that we are being able to adjust to, we adjust, and the ones that we are not able to adjust, we've moved on with it. But COVID was a very critical point during that journey.